Brian, welcome to the gallery, and not every day we have a chance to shake hands in front of Matthew Flinders.
That's right. Well, yeah, he was a big person in the whole history of Australia, and the main reason he's involved in this exhibition is that he came out to survey the southeast coast in 1801. It was when England was worried about France getting there first and discovering whether it was a complete landmass or whether there was a break down the middle. So he came out in 1801. First landing, I guess, was Cape Llewellyn.
And we have that here.
And that's on the map here.
Can you take us through that? His passage there when he
Yeah,
arrived.
the main thing was his first landfall was Cape Llewellyn.
Yeah.
And then he came round to King George Sound, where they made a landfall. And the Bower and Brown, who were the two naturalists, went ashore, and in the few days over there they found over 500 new species of fauna and flora, and documented a lot of them. And from King George Sound they went across to Port Lincoln, and in Port Lincoln a little tragedy where one of the boats going ashore for water with the 6 guys on the boat all disappeared, never came back, and consequently they named the small harbour next to it Coffin Bay. And they moved on briefly anyhow from there to Kangaroo Island, and Kangaroo Island to Albatross Island, and then around the coast to Sydney. So the main thing was to get around there before the Frenchman Bowden got there. They met him after they left Kangaroo Island, and they went northeast, and they bumped into Bowden there, and he was coming the other way. And but he'd missed a whole lot of the things that Flinders found on the way around when he was surveying that area. So it was really sort of a bit of a race in a way. But you know how amazing it must have been to come from many, many weeks across ocean not seeing any land at all to pinpoint a landing that you had no idea about what it was, whether it was good with vegetation or whether it was a desert or whether there was water or whether there wasn't. Just a phenomenal chances and danger and everything they did.
Brian, the Flinders series obviously means a lot to you. What is the fascination for you?
Well, I started on the Flinders series about 5 or 6 years ago, and I think it was a sort of natural progression into that area because, you know, I grew up on boats, on sailing from the time I was about 6 on the little ones and up from there. And my grandfather was a skipper and engineer on the wheat run on the between Bergen and Melbourne for nearly 40 years, on the Four Masters, and he used to come down and help me at the yacht club, and I just always loved the mood and the feel of the harbour, particularly Port Phillip Bay at that time it was. I was down in Melbourne, and I just think it carried through because in my teens I always thought of doing the single-handed sailing thing, you know, and read all the books on it, on Slocum and all those other single-handed sailors, but of course in the end you don't end up doing it. You have to live a reasonably normal life. But yeah, I think that's what got me into it, and a lot of the other discoveries and really the risks they took and the things they did without just knowing where they were going, and the, you know, sailing off into nowhere and not knowing whether you're going to strike land or not strike land in those days. So many of them starved. I mean, on a normal trip of discovery, whether it was English or European boats or whatever else, you were lucky if half your crew came back.
Yeah, astonishing.
It was just amazing. You know, and the other half of the crew were probably just brought into service off the streets and didn't even know where they were going. So, yeah, it was an adventurous, scary and wonderful thing. And the navigators and the people that were really doing that sort of work at that time were not only quite brilliant, but really heroes in their own right. And it was just a wonderful thing to keep finding and following and researching and trying to get into the mood of the thing and the feel of the thing, of what it might have been like at that time.
Brian, when I saw this painting, I had visions of Turner and the energy and the drama in the cloudscape and the drama in the sea. This shows a full expression of your style. How do you approach doing a painting like this, and where does that energy and that excitement sort of come from?
Well, this painting actually is a little bit more constable than Turner. Turner's a bit looser. Some of the works I do are a lot looser because they're both wonderful painters that I've looked at and studied a lot when I was in England. But I really look for the emotive feeling of the day, and I tried to push those colours and the mood of it as much as I can. You know, so I might take it in one day, I might let it sit there for a while, and really the symbolic points come through after a little bit of time, and you drop off all the other peripheral, and you're really symbolising that mood and colour and feel that existed on that day and was really what influenced you. The movement, I try to get as much movement as I can in it, and that's why I never like anything to try to be, you know, too static with it. And I try to use the purest colours I can, you know, a lot of pure cadmium straight from the tube when I can, and a lot of palette knife. I often knock in backgrounds and things with the brush, but usually push it around with palette knives. So you can see that all these little pieces here, and a lot of the pushes against the clouds and things are really pushed with a palette knife. It just gives it a more vibrant and static area where you've almost stopped it in its tracks, and you get that broken up sort of feel. I think it works for what I'm trying to get quite well.